Formulating the question, we do have to discuss, again, the open and close question. And this is really the important part here. The actual forming of the question. There's a lot to go into, and I don't know if we have enough time for this podcast. So I'm just going to go over the open and close questions because that's like really paramount to this technique. For this technique, you want to use as much open questions as possible. To do that, you want to start your questions with things like how, what, why, tell me about, ... anything to open up the dialogue instead of do you like your job or what do you enjoy about your job? Do you like your job is closed. And then what do you enjoy about your job is an open-ended question. I'll just go through a few examples of closed versus open. Did you finish the project on time? Closed. What were some challenges you faced while completing the project? Different question. You get the same outcome. What were some of the challenges you faced while completing the project? You're implying that this person completed the project. Did you finish the project on time? Well, I'm assuming that the project is completed. If it's not completed, you're going to tell me, well, we didn't complete the project yet. We ran into this snag, this snag, this snag, this snag. Actually, we completed it a couple of weeks ago. There wasn't really many challenges at all. It went really, really well. And we finished a couple of weeks early. Oh, perfect. Are you familiar with the software we use? That's a closed question. Tell me about your experience with the software we use. Right? So that tell me about this. I use that all the time. It's not really a question. It's just like a statement. You're commanding that person to do something, but it still works as a question. Are you familiar with the software we use? Yes, no. Tell me about your experience with the software we use. Well, actually, I don't have any experience with this software. Let's just say that it's a CRM or something. I don't have any experience with Salesforce, but I've used HubSpot a lot. I don't have any experience with this customer service app, but I have it with this customer service app. Did you meet your sales target this quarter? That's a closed question. Open question. What strategies did you employ to meet your sales target this quarter? Once again, doing the same thing that we did in the first question, which is we're just making an assumption about something. We're just saying, hey, you probably met your sales quarter. And if you didn't, I'm just assuming that you're going to tell me that you didn't. And yes, you could ask these questions straight up, but I'm assuming that we want to get more open-ended. Those are some examples of closed versus open questions. While you can see in these examples, they're not asking completely congruent things. Right? They're not asking the same thing at all. Did you meet your sales target this quarter? Is not the same question as what strategies did you employ to meet your sales target this quarter? But the answer from the second question is going to be much better than did you meet your sales target this quarter? Did you meet your sales target this quarter? Yes. And then the follow-up, I'd be like, well, what did you do? That works too. But in my opinion, asking the open-ended question first makes way more sense, especially if you couple it with the contextual statement at the beginning. Now, step 3, this is optional, but I say it's the SQE framework just so that you know it. And this is going to be the example. So you could stop the entire question right here. I'll reread the example that we were using, the first one that we use. Given the recent negative changes in market trends, I'm curious about how our company plans to adapt its marketing strategies. What do you see coming in the next 6 to 12 months? That is a great question right there. You can completely leave it and you could see what they give you from there. And I'm sure that it's going to be much better than what do you see coming in the next 6 to 12 months. The example at the end is going to help us increase the clarity. That's the name of the game here. We just want to be really clear. We want to get a lot of transfer of information across to them so that they can transfer information back to us. We want to provide an example. It helps to ensure that like both you and the respondent, the other person, the other participant in this conversation are on the same page regarding what's being discussed. It clarifies the context and specificity of your question, and it reduces ambiguity, basically. This can't go wrong. Context, question, context. We are going to get the right answer out of you. The example, it helps to increase the relevance of what you're saying. It can help tailor your question to the person's experience, their situation. It can encourage more detailed responses. when they understand the exact nature of what you're saying and then also of what you want from them to say. I have some guidelines that I'll go over in a little bit for these example questions, but I will go through some examples of these examples first. It's much easier to just give you examples than it is to explain to you what it is. I'm going to give it to you the entire question now. And I have 5 different questions that I will read, and I will read the entirety of it. Contextual statement, ask your question, and then an example. I've noticed that effective communication is crucial in maintaining a healthy work-life balance, especially in remote work environments. What strategies do you recommend for improving communication with remote teams? For example, do you prioritize certain platforms or types of meetings to ensure clarity and connection among team members? That's a big word salad. The example question or the explainer question, however you want to think about it, it helps to ask and clarify and specifically like what portion of this or what are we talking about? Do you prioritize certain platforms or types of meetings to ensure clarity and connection among team members? But in the greater question, what strategies do you recommend for improving communication with remote teams? Second question, in today's rapidly changing business landscape, staying ahead of industry trends is more important than ever. How do you stay updated with the latest trends and innovation in your field? Are there specific websites, podcasts, or conferences that have been valuable for your professional development? The example is, are there specific websites, podcasts, or conferences that have been valuable for your professional development? If you stop me and you go back and listen to it, and you don't have to do that for this one because I'll reread it, you'll see that the contextual statement and question, they're solid. When I wrote these, like, this is solid. In today's rapidly changing business landscape, staying ahead of industry trends is more important than ever. How do you stay updated with the latest trends and innovations in your field? That's a solid question. You can go to town with that and they're going to give you a good answer. Narrowing it down even further, you can say like, well, what I really want is I want like websites, podcasts, conferences that you've been to that have helped your professional development. That's what I really care about. 3, contextual statement. I've been exploring various investment strategies to diversify my portfolio and mitigate risks. The question, what are some effective approaches to diversification that you've found successful? For instance, how do you balance between stocks, bonds, and alternative investments to achieve a well-rounded portfolio? In this one, we don't have to explain what diversification is. We don't have to explain how you can diversify your portfolio because in your explaining question, in your example question, you've said explicitly that I understand that there are stocks, there are bonds, and there are alternative investments out there. How do you balance between them? Oh, okay, got it. That's the question. 4, contextual statement. Building a strong personal brand seems to be crucial for career advancement and networking opportunities. The question, what key elements do you believe are essential in creating and maintaining a strong personal brand? Example, who's someone whose personal brand strategy you admire and what do they do well? So this one gets them to be even more specific and like, oh, okay, I want you to give me an example of someone's personal brand that you admire. Last but not least, I'm always looking for ways to enhance team productivity without overburdening individual team members. Question, what techniques or tools do you recommend for improving team efficiency while maintaining a positive work environment? So if you go back and listen to this and you're like, well, Ryan, why don't you just say the contextual statement and then the example question should just be the question that you ask? If you read back and you go back through all of this, there's a lot that gets lost. There's a lot of context that gets lost between your contextual statement and the example question. And you really want your question to be in the middle and then just specifying like, oh, this is what the answer is at the end.